I met this guy online the summer before college. Let's call him Eli. At first, he seemed harmless. We bonded over music, obscure books, late-night talks that stretched until sunrise. I thought I'd found a friend, someone who understood me. But even from the beginning, there were odd details I brushed off. Eli never used his camera. He said it was broken, though he somehow always had new photos of me, pictures I never remembered sending. He'd call me in the middle of the night, whispering like someone else was in the room. Once, he murmured, "Don't hang up. They don't like when I'm alone." I should have stopped talking to him, but I didn't. A year later, I was heading out of state for a music festival. Coincidentally, Eli lived only a few hours away from the venue. He offered me a place to stay. He insisted it would be fun, that I'd finally get to see his world. Something in me hesitated, but after so many months of talking, I thought maybe it was safe. Maybe I was just paranoid. When I met Eli in person, my stomach sunk. He looked like his pictures, but distorted. His smile stretched too wide. His hug lingered too long. And when his eyes locked on mine, it wasn't affection I saw, it was hunger. His apartment was spotless, not lived in spotless, but empty. No family photos, no clutter. The walls were bare, except for a few old clocks that all ticked slightly out of sync. The only sign of life was a single hallway with one locked door at the end. The doorknob was scratched raw, like someone had clawed at it for hours. When I asked about it, Eli chuckled awkwardly. "Storage," he said, but his eyes didn't move from mine until I nodded. That first night, the silence was unbearable. We sat on the couch with the TV on, but he didn't watch it. He just stared at me. Every blink felt rehearsed, as if he had to remind himself how to act human. I pretended to fall asleep early. Hours later, I woke to a faint humming, slow, rhythmic, like a lullaby sung through clenched teeth. At first, I thought it was the TV, until I realized the sound was coming from that locked door. A flicker of light seeped from the crack at the bottom. The second I touched the doorknob, the humming stopped. The light went out. I froze. For a full minute, I stood there, gripping the handle, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. But I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, Eli made pancakes. He didn't ask if I wanted any. He just placed the plate in front of me and stared while I took a bite. The pancakes were raw in the middle. The syrup tasted metallic. When I pushed the plate away, he leaned closer and whispered, "It's rude not to finish what you're given." By the third night, I knew I couldn't stay. Eli's comments had shifted from strange to terrifying. "You're exactly how I pictured you. I don't think I could ever let you leave." Every word felt like a warning. While he showered, I packed my things as quietly as possible. My hands shook so badly I dropped my charger twice. I just wanted to escape. But when I reached for my phone, it wasn't there. I searched the room, heart racing, and then I saw it. My phone was sitting neatly on the floor directly in front of the locked door, as if something or someone had placed it there. I didn't think.
I didn't breathe. I left everything behind and bolted out the front door, my shoes barely on, heart pounding in my throat. I sprinted until I saw a gas station. That's where I called for a ride. That night, I blocked Eli on everything. But the messages come. From new accounts, new numbers, always the same words. You left too soon. I wasn't finished.
A few years ago, I reconnected with someone from my past. Not really a friend, more like a shadow I once knew. It started small. Likes on old photos, a comment here and there. But soon it became everything I posted, every single thing. He never really spoke, just strange words, cryptic quotes, broken song lyrics. Things that never belonged to any song I could find. I thought it was nothing, but the feeling started creeping in, like his eyes were on me, even when I was alone. At that time, I lived in a house in the woods, the kind of place where shadows breathe. Bushes thick enough to swallow a person whole. Trees that creak like they're whispering secrets. And on nights when the wind died, I swore I could hear something else breathing. One afternoon, my brother mowed the lawn. The mower broke. The height lever snapped, leaving bald patches scattered across the yard. It looked wrong, like something unfinished. That night, he posted again. 4 words. Patterns in the grass. No explanation, no context, just those words. I searched. No song, no quote, nothing. And then, the next morning, I saw them. Across our lawn, shapes. Not random bold spots, but deliberate. Circles, angles, lines. Like someone had been walking again and again until the grass bent into a message only they could read. And suddenly, I realized it wasn't broken. It was planned. A few nights later, I couldn't take it. I went out to the porch. It was high, safe. If someone was down there, I'd see them. I stood there, listening. The silence pressed against me like a hand over my mouth. And then I shouted. I shouted into the dark that I knew he was there, that he was disgusting, that if he ever came near me, I would destroy him. Do you hear me? The next morning, he was gone. No more likes, no more comments. His account wiped clean. That post about the grass deleted, like it never happened. Maybe it was all coincidence. Maybe he just got tired of me. That's what I want to believe. But sometimes when the night is quiet and the trees outside start to shift in the wind, I wonder, was he out there watching? listening, waiting.
A few years ago, I reconnected with someone from my past. I'm 23, living in California. I'd used dating apps before. Nothing real. One bored Friday, I downloaded Tinder. Half an hour later, I matched with someone. His name was Ethan, 25, programmer, gamer, the type of guy who seems harmless online. We hit it off fast. Same games, same jokes. Before I could type, he messaged, "Hey, saw you're new. Thought I'd say hi." We drank wine on my back patio. He brought a bottle, my favorite brand. Coincidence, I told myself. We played games until late. He showed me his laptop, his projects. It felt normal, friendly. Then, something crossed the line. I left the room to use the bathroom. I didn't lock the door. Big mistake. I heard the knob turn. He opened it, walked in, and from behind he grabbed me, pressing into me. I pushed him off and told him it was intrusive. He laughed. "Just testing," he said. "See how you react." I let it go. I tried to brush it off. Later, in the kitchen, as I reached for water, he pressed himself against me, groping. This time I didn't joke. I shoved him hard and told him he was crossing every boundary. He snapped, called me names, accused me of being afraid, said the community has no boundaries. And then he left. He said he'd Uber. I believed him. I took a shower to shake it off. 5 minutes in, I heard a soft tink-tink at the bathroom door. I peeked through the glass and saw the gap at the bottom. There was a spoon, pressed to the wood, a shadowed hand holding it steady. He was leaning down, listening, waiting. I pretended not to notice, turned the water off slowly. As I stepped out, towel around my waist, a camera shutter clicked. I heard the phone snap a photo. I burst out the door. He bolted down the hall and out my front door. A white car peeled away. Not an Uber. I blocked him everywhere. Tinder, socials, phone. My stomach was a knot of anger and fear. What did he take a picture of? Why a spoon at the door? Why the need to watch while I was vulnerable? I don't know. I can imagine the worst. And that image, the spoon, the gap, the shutter, it sits with me. So that's the story of the Tinder creep who groped me in my own house. I could say it ended there. I could say it's over. But sometimes on quiet nights, I still see the flash of a camera, a white car disappearing into the dark, and I wonder, did he save that photo? For whom? For what?
I'm 30. I relocated for work. New city, unfamiliar streets, no real friends yet. Weather grounded all my projects, so I'd been stuck inside for weeks. Last night, I decided to go out for a drink, just to be near people, to feel normal. I'd matched with someone on a dating app a few days earlier. We'd messaged a little, small talk about travel, pets, work. He said he was a medical technician. He said he loved animals. He said he'd been abroad, too. Nice guy, reliable on paper. His name on the app was Marcus. He seemed perfect for a quiet night out. We met at a bar,
talked for hours, not drunk, just comfortable. We laughed about travel mishaps, shared little revelations. Afterward, he offered to drive me back. I invited him over for one glass of wine. We skipped the wine. We didn't think too much about it. We went to the bedroom. Everything seemed fine, normal. But when the night thinned out and the lights dimmed, he changed. He grew clingy, like someone who's memorized the idea of affection, but not the person. He wrapped around me, that too close kind of closeness. Then, between breaths, he pressed his face close and whispered, "I just love you so much." I laughed, forced. I pretended to be on my phone until he slept. I slipped to the couch to get space. Around 5 a.m., he came into the living room like a storm. He was angry I hadn't slept in the bed. He grabbed my phone, demanded the password, wanted to call his buddies over. When I told him to leave, he snapped. He stormed through my things, through my bedroom drawers, my underwear, searching for something that made no sense. He came out holding a pair of my panties, eyes wild. He lunged at me and knocked my phone away. Panic happened in sound, in motion. I grabbed the hunting knife I keep under the coffee table. I swung, not to kill, to scare him off. I missed. He collapsed into tears and fled, strangely broken and frantic at once. He ran to his car and drove away. I called the police. I told them the name he gave me. Nothing came up. It was a fake. His life online, probably made up. He left in a white car. I filed the report. I stayed up all night with my raccoon pacing at my feet, waiting for something else to happen. I don't know what his photo was going to be used for. I don't know how many lies he carried in his pocket. All I know is the cold feel of his fingers in my drawers, the way his voice changed, the way he cried on the porch before he drove off. So now, every time I hear a key in the door or a car pass too slowly down the street, I freeze. Because some things don't end when the person leaves. Some things follow you home, like footprints on wet pavement or the echo of a desperate laugh.
This is going to be long, but I need to get it off my chest. I was 19 then, living through lockdown, desperate for anything that felt normal. My friend and I decided to go play basketball at the park. That's how harmless the day felt. I couldn't find my ball, so I swung by the nearby Walmart to grab one. Nothing special. Fluorescent lights, aisles, that same hum of shoppers. As I walked out, there was a man standing by the entrance, smoking. Mid-30s, rough jacket, backpack slung over one shoulder. Just another face in a town that's seen better days. I didn't think much of him. He called after me. "Can you give me a ride?" I'm careful by nature. Criminal justice class, true crime hobbyist, I always watch my surroundings. I said no. He said he had a broken leg. He had a plastic boat. Of course he did. My skin tightened. I lied, told him I was heading the opposite way to my brother's, an hour away. He shouldn't have pushed it. He said fine. Points to the gas station across the street. I'll call a taxi. The close call. He started to walk away. I unlocked the driver door with my fob, only once, just to toss the ball in. Then I heard the passenger handle move. He tried the door. It was locked. My heart beat loud in my ears. I jumped out and started screaming, obscenities, loud and ugly, until he finally walked off.
I drove away, hands trembling on the wheel, thinking that was that. A week later, I was at work, hosting at a restaurant. Someone came in to ask for an application. I looked up, and my breath stopped. It was him. He smiled like he'd bumped into an old friend. He said, "Funny seeing you here." How would he know where I worked? I told him to apply online and watched him leave, now with no boot on his foot, no limp, nothing. An hour later, my manager tells me an application came through. His name, the same. He didn't get hired. Then days later, a Facebook friend request from a name I didn't know. Blocked. A few days after that, my friend and I were outside by the dumpsters when I saw him at my car window, hand pressed flat against the glass, peering in. My friend ran over, tore into him like I'd never seen. He backed off, muttering, "Okay, okay, okay," and left. And after that week, he vanished. Gone. I keep thinking about the little things, the way he looked me up and down in the parking lot, the passenger handle turning, the boot that disappeared, the smile at the restaurant. What if my passenger door had unlocked? What if there had been a second when he could have slipped inside? A string of coincidences stretched into something else, something that felt like a tension, then like a tracing of my steps. I never saw him again. I never knew his real name. I only have the memory of his hand on my window and the image of a man who knew things he shouldn't have known. That's enough to keep me watching my doors a little longer at night.